Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey Tom, what's the date and time?
It is February 20th, and it's sports time. Welcome to Sports Time. I'm Tom Conroy.
And I'm Chris Chavez. Before we dive into the 30 types of slipping and sliding that is the Winter Olympics, let's take a look at how the 2014 Olympic medal count is shaping up in these last few days of the Olympic Games. In just a second, we'll have these medal counts come up.
Chris, I sure hope that the U.S. is ahead in the medal count. Otherwise, I'm going to be very upset on camera.
Well, Norway does have about 20 medals from just speed skating in and of itself, but I believe the U.S. is going to win the Olympics, just like they do with every other Olympic game.
Chris, they should, because I don't even know where Norway is.
And we're going to keep it going now as we examine a little bit of bobsled action.
Now, Chris, Lolo Jones finished 11th in that race, but I do understand that she has signed on to be in the movie Cool Runnings 2 alongside Usain Bolt and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Definitely a hit.
Definitely a hit, absolutely. Oscar contender. After missing out on gold in individual 1,500-meter competition, USA Speed Skating blamed the Under Armour speed suits for their slow times. Shawnee Davis was favored to be the first triple gold medalist in the event, but finished 8th overall. Marquette's very own Brian Hansen finished 9th. In other news, Apollo Ono is now completely irrelevant, but his soul patch lives on forever in Subway sandwich commercials.
Now, USA is out for redemption as they go for gold in the Trivial Pursuit. Well, actually, it's the team pursuit in speed skating, but still the same thing. And to protest the Under Armour suits, I heard they're going to be competing completely nude.
That's a bold strategy, Chris. Let's see if it works out.
And now moving on to the communist sport that is hockey, USA faced off against Canada in the gold medal match for women's hockey. The Americans were less than a minute away from pulling off the upset before the maple-chugging buffoons tied the game at 2 goals apiece.
You know, Chris, USA missed their shot at an open net goal when the puck was intercepted by Toronto Mayor Rob Ford, who happened to later state that's what happens when you go up against a mediocre wide receiver like Michael Crabtree. Not sure exactly what he meant by that, Chris. But speaking of unhappy, Putin was not happy after Russia hockey lost, so 17-year-old Adeline Sotnikova was awarded the gold medal in women's figure skating over South Korea's Yoona Kim. USA's Gracie Gold finished 4th.
Now, there definitely was a little bit of controversy over Sotnikova's win, but she did have 7 triples in her performance. Kim had 3. So both broke the Major League record for single game performance previously held by George Strife and Bill Joyce. And, you know, that's for MLB. Now, Russia did agree to trade in for the gold medal in exchange for the worst hotel rooms in Pyeongchang 2018.
I understand you're going to be in Pyeongchang for spring break this year.
I want to go to Pyongyang.
Oh, okay.
Let's move on to a little bit more peculiar of a winter sport. And while you may think you're familiar with curling, there's some aspects that you don't know of. So here's a quick video to get you familiar with some terminology and strategy from the game that might surprise you. Well, that's curling.
Let me tell you, Chris, people that play this sport probably have very clean homes. But before we wrap up our Olympic talk, I got to ask you, what would your song be if you were a figure skater?
For me, I would probably say anything with Les Mis. If you play Les Mis and you go out there on the ice, I think you're guaranteed to win gold. What about you?
I got to go with Every Time We Touch by Cascada.
Why?
Why not?
Good point.
We now have Jet Fuel's own Matt Barbato standing by in Sochi. Matt, what do you have for us?
I'm here in Sochi, where I'm sure the weather is much better than what Tom and Chris are dealing with in Milwaukee. It's a jovial scene for Canadians at the Olympics and in their native land, as the women's hockey team staged an incredible comeback to stun the United States in the gold medal game. Justin Bieber and Robin Thicke classics are blaring. My feet are stuck to the ground thanks to all of the maple syrup covering the streets of Sochi. Folks, I've seen Yankees Red Sox in 2004, Appalachian State over Michigan in 2010, and Florida Gulf Coast knocking off the Georgetown Hoyas as a 15 seed, but none of them compared to the epic collapse from the United States women's hockey team today. The United States held a 2-0 lead late in the third period thanks to goals by Megan Dugan and Alex Carpenter, but the Canadians stormed back to score 2 goals in 3.5 minutes to force overtime. In overtime, Canada's Marie-Philippe Poulin netted the game winner on a power play to steal the goal from the Americans. I spoke with Poulin after the game, and she was very ecstatic in the locker room. She told me she was going to fly home immediately and visit her hometown Tim Hortons, then guzzle a bottle of maple syrup. I actually saw Rob Ford galloping around the streets in what some may call his birthday suit. He was too incoherent for a comment. As for the American team, I didn't stay long for a post-game comment after a player tried to rip a slap shot at me for asking a simple question about being the women's version of the Miracle on Ice. Guess I didn't love the movie as much as I did. The U.S. will get a shot at redemption on Friday when the men's hockey team faces Canada in the Olympic semifinals. Today was actually the first Olympic event I attended, as I've been locked in my hotel room for the past 3 days. I'm also pretty sure I caught pink eye from Bob Costas. Let me just say, it's nice to be outside enjoying Putin's playland. When we come back, Tom and Chris talk about the NBA, and I'm going to use my American Airlines miles to make a quick trip back to the States. Live from balmy Sochi, Russia, I'm Matt Barbato.
Back to sports time. With the Olympics almost wrapped up, there's still plenty of real sports to be excited about, like the NBA. Let's recap all the events and contests from this past weekend at the All-Star break in New Orleans. In the Rising Stars game, Andre Drummond grabbed everything in sight, including the MVP trophy, as he posted 30 points and 25 rebounds. Team Hill defeated Team Weber 142-136 on Friday night, easily the biggest disappointment of Chris Webber's basketball career.
Now, in the dunk contest, John Wall won as he hit a 360 dunk and then proceeded to do the Nene dance. In attendance and not at school, Lil Terrio said afterwards, "I think it was cool," as he chomped down on his 4th turkey leg of the night. And as for the actual game, the West beat the East for home field advantage in the World Series.
God, I love baseball. Well, Wednesday night saw a battle between the Eastern Conference leading Pacers versus Kevin Love and the Timberwolves. Now let's turn to the rest of the league and see what unfolded Wednesday. Wednesday night, Bulls would take a win over the Toronto Raptors
By 2 points.
By 2 points. Carlos Boozer with 20 points. He's been in a lot of trade talks lately.
And Kirk Heinrich with 19 points there. Heinrich's still around.
I can't believe that. DeMar DeRozan had 32 points for the Raptors. Kyle Lowry, another big name in the trade talks recently with the Knicks.
And then we've got the Spurs and the Trailblazers. Trailblazers, you know, their general manager is a former Xavier High School alum. But the Trailblazers were led by Damian Lillard with 31 points. The Spurs had Bellinelli with 20 points, as San Antonio would edge out a victory 111-109 over
These
Portland.
Spurs just can't lose.
They also
It's just
can't
not
age
happening.
whatsoever.
Absolutely, forever young. Now we go over to Golden State Warriors and Sacramento Kings. Golden State would pull off the victory 101-92. David Lee led the way with 23 points. Another former Knick, go New York, go New York, go. Isaiah Thomas, not to be confused with the disgraced former Knicks general manager, led the Kings with 26 points.
Wizards, with dunk champion John Wall, would beat the Hawks with Paul Millsap, just Paul Millsap, 114-97 on the road. And
Our
now
own Matt Barbato.
We're going to go to our own Matt Barbato, who hopped on a plane to LAX with a dream in his cardigan to provide some analysis from the NBA. Matt, are you there?
I'm magically here in front of the lovely Staples Center in even balmier Los Angeles, California. I have to say I had a few too many shots of Absolute vodka on my plane ride home from Russia, and I'm feeling a little bit of jet lag. It's been a pretty boring NBA trade deadline thus far. The most notable trade was made by the Eastern Conference leading Indiana Pacers, who traded forward Danny Granger to the Philadelphia 76ers for Evan Turner, in what some are calling the biggest trade in the last 3 hours. The Pacers also sent a second-round pick to the 76ers after Rocky Balboa complained that the trade was unfair for his hometown team. Philly also received some guy named Lavoy Allen, who is averaging a ridiculous 5.2 points per game. It seems like the 76ers really value this year's upcoming draft, as they have piled up more second-round picks than the Milwaukee Bucks have wins. Just kidding. But they do have 5 second-round picks for reasons unknown. Speaking of the worst team in the NBA, the Bucks traded Gary Neal and Luke Ridnour to the Charlotte Bobcats for Ramon Sessions and Jeff Adrian. Like most of the Bucks this season, Neal and Ridnour have been irrelevant, but apparently the Bucks thought it was smart to swap those guys for Sessions and his $4.5 million salary. The tank is on, ladies and gents. Go Bucks. I also have gotten some great trade speculation from the drunks sleeping outside of the Staples Center. My sources tell me there could be a 3-team trade on the horizon between the Los Angeles Lakers, New York Knicks, and Brooklyn Nets. The Lakers would trade Kobe Bryant to New York for Iman Shumpert, while the Nets will trade Jay-Z's ownership skills to the Knicks for the rights to Spike Lee's next film. At this point, Jay-Z might be an upgrade for the Knicks over owner James Dolan. Another interesting rumor I heard was about a former Marquette player. Vander Blue has allegedly offered every possession he owns, including the clothes on his back, for another year of eligibility at Marquette. I reached out to Blue's agent, who said he was unable to comment because he was spending the day looking for a tryout in the Wauwatosa Rec League. Please come back. We need you, Vander. When we return, Tom and Chris will get you ready for spring training while I board a Greyhound down to Tampa Bay.
As they say on Breaking Bad, brace yourself. Spring has arrived. It's that wonderful time of year known as spring training, which means the time when 29 teams worth of baseball fans pretend that they won't be disappointed in October.
The Yankees announced Brian Roberts as their starting second baseman for opening day. Now, fun fact about this move is that this is the first opening day in which someone other than Robinson Cano will be at that position since the Tony Womack era. And if you need a little refresher as to who was before that, before the Tony Womack era, the Yankees had the Enrique Wilson era.
Don't forget the legendary Miguel Cairo.
Miguel Cairo never started on opening day, but he was a legendary Yankee nonetheless.
Speaking of the AL East, the Baltimore Orioles signed Ubaldo Jimenez to a 4-year, $50 million contract. The Indians lost another key player from their 2013 playoff appearance, which means that we get to continue to laugh at Cleveland sports the way that it was meant to be.
Jason Giambi's back for them, at least. That's a former Yankee.
Gotta love Jason Giambi.
Now, down in Clearwater, Florida, A.J. Burnett arrived in spring training for the Phillies, with a Pittsburgh Pirates bag. But after inking a 1-year deal, he's going to be probably one of their aces there. Now, what does this mean for the Phils? This means that the team will now have a 37-year-old as the face of this franchise. Now, this 37-year-old is going to be the leader for all the other 35-year-olds on the team. Finally, some veteran presence.
Speaking of youth in baseball, 38-year-old Tim Hudson worked out for the San Francisco Giants and said his ankle was feeling 100%. He was hoping to join former A's teammate Barry Zito in San Fran, but the former AL Cy Young winner was out shopping for fedoras.
No surprise. He does have great taste in fedoras.
He does have. I love his fedotos. Their other former teammate, Mark Mulder, attempted a comeback by having his entire arm replaced. It didn't work.
Now, what a busy man we have in our very own Matt Barbato, who has so graciously decided to make the trip out to spring training on a Greyhound bus. Enjoying the sunshine out there for us, Matt?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I just got off the Greyhound in Tampa about 13 minutes ago. Still haven't eaten a meal today thanks to my grueling travel schedule. And now I am at Steinbrenner Field for the Yankees spring training, and I'm clearly getting into the mood here with my wonderful Hawaiian shirt. I got exclusive access to Masahiro Tanaka's first throwing session of the spring, along with 23 other reporters. Needless to say, he looked great for February. He didn't throw a pitch. Actually, he was just tossing a wiffle ball to Hideki Matsui, who apparently was a special instructor. Tanaka and I shared a great meal at the local Benihana's across from Steinbrenner Field. He told me in between bites of chicken fried rice that he's excited to be a Yankee. He also made me pick up the tab, claiming the first check from his $155 million contract was stuck in the mail. Of course, I'm not particularly sure what Tanaka was saying because I don't speak a lick of Japanese. Speaking of eating, CC Sabathia came into camp a bit slimmer. He looked great for a 6'7", 290-pound mammoth. He's hoping his reformed look will keep him durable over the 2014 season. He and I shared a local meal at the local steakhouse across the street from Steinbrenner Field. where Sabathia said he was excited to see how good this team could be with new additions Jacoby Ellsbury, Carlos Beltran, Brian McCann, and Tanaka. At least that's what I think he said, because he had his mouth full with a 32-ounce ribeye. The biggest storyline heading into Yankees spring training is that it will be Derek Jeter's last spring training of his illustrious career. Jeter announced his retirement on Facebook last week, bringing the end to one of the best dynasties in sports. Jeter told me he isn't sure what he's going to do after retirement, but is really banking on a sequel to the movie The Other Guys. Guys, I am absolutely exhausted. I've practically been around the world in a matter of 30 minutes. I'm going to sleep for the next 6 days. Live from Tampa, I'm Matt Barbato. Back to you guys.
What a trooper. Chris,
Matt's looking great. I mean, did you see how the sunshine, he's taking in the rays. He's got a little bit of a tan already, and it's only been 5 minutes that he's been in Tampa.
And thankfully, that Hawaiian shirt fit him absolutely perfectly.
I mean, but I mean, he is moving around from time to time. Airplane food is expensive, so I mean, he probably slimmed down on the trip there.
I understand that most airlines don't even provide food anymore, Chris.
No, they don't. I mean, on Valentine's Day, I was on a plane, and the flight attendant gave me 2 bags of peanuts, so I think she was into me.
I think you're going to get married to her.
Oh, probably.
You know, Chris, we like to have a good laugh here every once in a while,
right.
But there's one thing that's never funny. I want you to keep in your prayers tonight my mother, who firmly believes that the New York Mets will actually make the playoffs this year.
Really?
She's firmly sound in it. She believes that Bartolo Colon, at his new weight of 560 pounds, will actually be able to be the ace of this rotation.
That doesn't sound too ridiculous to me. I think what does sound ridiculous to me is that Ike Davis is still playing first base for them. He's horrible.
It's like watching a pack mule run out there. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
And now, I guess this is pretty much all the time we have here, so we're going to end the show in just about a minute, but what we have here is some nice Russian vodka.
Well, Chris, actually, fun fact, this is not Russian vodka. This is vodka that I actually distilled in my bathtub.
Really?
It took me 3 days, and yes, I have not showered in 3 days in order to make it.
Well, so I guess what we're trying to do here is we're trying to pull a little bit of a Bob Costas move here, and it's, you know, we've got some nice vodka. You have pink eye?
I think so.
You have pink eye?
Yeah. Do you want pink eye?
I mean, we could split it, right? You get one eye,
okay.
I get the other eye?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I guess just with that, we're going to close out the show and say good night, Marquette. Cheers.